Pullman. How you doing, man?
We're connected at 11:02. I'm 2 minutes behind. Sorry to report. Blast off.
Yeah.
Into
Let's
the
go.
rocket. We're ready to go into the spare.
Man, I mean this with the utmost sincerity. You changed my life without even knowing me. I would not have started this acting pursuit or done anything if it weren't for you. You were the biggest influence on me. I mean, all my earliest cinematic experiences, they were all with you, like The Serpent and the Rainbow, Spaceballs even, and then like Casper, Newsies, Independence Day. Like, I've spoken about this with Kathleen Turner when she did this show, but your range, it's so hard to be an amazing actor in that many kind of mediums, or styles or narratives, or tonal shifts. And you are one of the best actors in the world. And I remember when I saw...
Wait a minute. My wife is downstairs. She's got to hear that. That's one of the best actors in the world. My dog looked up and said that down, but...
I'm sure you've heard this before, man, but like that Independence Day speech, I remember being like 7 or 8 years old. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That, like, it was your character I cared about. And then I followed your career religiously. And man,
thank you very much. Right.
Honestly, this is a dream come true, man. I've got so much love and admiration, and I've been trying to see you on the stage for so long. So I hope I get to make that happen soon.
Yeah. Yes. If I can still crank it up. Last year, did all my sons at the Old Vic.
I heard all my British friends.
But you can catch it. It's on that National Theater Live, which is very amazing. We did it live for 800,000 people around the world. Wow. One performance. It was a trippy thing because you don't want to trip. You don't want to trip up, and you're doing it live, so there's no going back. But that recording is made the rounds, and now it's coming back. I think with COVID times, they're looking to get some more content out there, and it's a very good methods they have to record a live stage. Normally, I hate looking at video of plays.
Yeah, because it's just such it's a live experience, and it doesn't really work. But let's start at the beginning. You grew up in New York, right, Bill?
Yeah, well, that's a big state, Ryan.
Upstate, right?
Yeah, upstate, far west. Rural counties. They, Steuben and Allegheny County, I think, have the highest white-tailed deer count hunting season, and it's the most rural probably. And but it's a great place to grow up. It's kind of remote, but they're still part of the world, as they realized with COVID and everything else that these times are the world is made a lot smaller. But that's where I grew up, in the back hills.
Wow. And then what did your parents do? Were they at all in the arts?
They were in medicine. Yeah,
my dad's a doctor, so.
Nice. Is he?
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know.
Well, Ryan, I always thought it was interesting that Chekhov was a doctor.
Yeah.
Chekhov was one of the great humanists of all time, and certainly one of the most important playwrights who, really influenced me when I was forming my ideas of what truthful performance and behavior on stage was, and doing his plays were really, and he was a doctor, and there's been other great people in the business who came through medicine, but do you feel like you can carry your mission as an actor towards and also oblige this guilt we have because we aren't doing as much for humanity as our parents?
I know, man. I feel so good. That's why I started a podcast, so I can give back.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
But then talk to me, how, because you're someone to me that's a true master actor. And it sounds, for most people, there's a lot of life experience there. So talk to me about your youth. What were you doing? Were you working on like ranches or you know?
Well, Western New York State is pretty far west, but not far as Ranch. I fell in love with Montana later in my life when I was in college,
Yeah.
to be part of theater company. So but as agrarian. So I worked on farms. I worked on a dairy farm, when I was in summertime, when I was in high school in Western New York State. But in those days, so different than now in terms of nobody really ever thought they could grow up and be an actor.
Yeah.
That just wasn't, nobody thought of it. I remember one time, a Cisco Kid there was a TV series for about 7 years in the 60s about Cisco Kid and his sidekick Pancho. And Cisco Kid came to our town and we got given an 8x10 black and white glossy. He signed it. And I said, what is this? I met Cisco Kid. But that was the only moment where it crossed my brain, and then it went out again.
Wow.
And I was in, and I had went into, I was doing just after high school, I was looking around thinking, I'm going to go to building construction school.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out in the dorm, and some refrigeration students said, we're going to go try out for a play. You want to come? So I went with them, and I ended up getting cast in this play. And then
do you remember the play?
Yeah, it was The Bald Soprano by Ian Esco. It's amazing that this guy, Bill Campbell, was the director, and he was pretty new out of college. But in that time, there were these great absurd style plays, and The Bald Soprano was one of those. And he was a charismatic guy, the director, and but I still was fighting it. But he said, Pullman, you're not going to do those things you're thinking about. I had a whole bunch of possible careers, but he said, this is good. You'll like this life. And maybe academic theater seemed like was what he was recommending, which I did.
Yeah.
Then I thought I better, I learned late. I was a late bloomer. I hadn't really seen any, independent filmmaking or anything. I hadn't seen what the range of cinema was, for sure. I didn't really watch television very much. And so I was hooked by the theater. So it was in that process I began to see, important performances in film, and, really, started to think that there's a journey there that I need to take to try to find that level of being able to channel character.
Was it in that very production where you felt the cathartic alignment of like, I think there's something here for me?
Well, yeah, there was something in my reptile brain. Thank God we can have these things where in that first production where I thought, this is fun.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like fun to be in front of an audience doing something that was disturbing and uncomfortable and funny to them. I thought those are three good things. But we were reading newspapers, and my character was reading the news to his wife, and Mr. Smith was his character reading it to Mrs. Smith. And Campbell, the director, had me all the time during doing it, slowly rotating forward in slow motion until I'm too far over it. And then I, still reading, fall down to the ground, and I roll on my back, and I'm still reading the newspaper. It was weird.
Yeah.
Kind of strange for the audience. They were laughing, but what's the point? The point that it wasn't on the nose, So I thought, this is mysterious. This is really engaging. This is compelling. This is behavior that that hooked me, I think, in some way. But
and this was at SUNY, at college, or
this was at Delhi, which was SUNY Delhi, but just 2-year college for mainly a vocational college. And then Campbell said, you got to go to Oneonta, which is where he went, and get a undergraduate degree, and then get a graduate degree in theater, and then teach in a place like this. It's a good life.
So the MFA thing was like, that was in your mind early?
Yeah, I think because I went into academic theater and I liked thinking about things. I got some great professors that were making me think about how to analyze scripts, and and I didn't really know professional. Nobody around me was going professional or anything. So I got an MFA, and I was kind of thinking I could go to, start into profession, but then I got a job offer to teach at Montana State University. For 2 years I did it. And
That's in Missoula, right?
In Bozeman.
Oh, yeah. Bozeman. Okay, got
University of Montana's in Missoula. Montana State University is in Bozeman.
Got it.
I love Bozeman. I love Montana a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a big part of my life since I first went out there, and when I was 20.
Wow. And how was that experience going from, following his name is what, Campbell? Sorry.
Bill Campbell.
Bill Campbell. Bill Campbell.
Yeah.
When you did that, like, I know for actors, I mean, you said it was a very academic thing for you at first. Were you fulfilled by that teaching? Like, did you find, because like students can be fucking assholes or they can be passionate, and you really don't know. Sometimes it's a blend of both,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really wild. I thought about this 2 months ago in a very interesting moment that happened because of COVID. I was working in New York on a Netflix series called Halston, and it's 5 episodes for Netflix, and we were an episode and a half into it. March 13th, Friday the 13th, last day, we're shutting down. So, okay, well, I better get home to my family in LA. I go take the flight out the next morning, and there in the waiting room is John Dahl. And John Dahl directed me first in Last Seduction. Wow. And then it went on to do You Kill Me, which is another movie he did, directing. But he was a student of mine at Montana State University. He was the film major, but he wanted to take a directing for the theater course. And there we were in the lounge waiting for our flight to go home. We'd been shut down and everything. And he was reminding me what I was like as a teacher, because in some ways I fugue between all these different personas in my past, trying to be a professor, presenting myself, I doing stuff. And then I was so curious to get his take on me, because I wasn't that much older than him. And, but and then I said, what do you remember from what I taught? So he reminded me, and I thought, that was a very good chance for me to come through school, even though it meant very late coming to the business. I got a chance to cement what I thought was important about live performance, particularly, and then what my part in it was, and then interfacing with film, and just having these film students. So yeah, it was a very, very good chapter.
That's amazing. And I'm 30, and I only got started 5 years ago, so I relate to what you're saying, getting started late and feeling like, but I'm curious, at being in Montana and, LA's over here and New York's over there, I heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, but your film students encourage you to go after it. Is that true?
Well, yeah, I don't know if there was some students that did somehow, that's a mixed message.
Okay.
When they say, a student says, you ought to get out of this. What are you
I didn't even think about the other side of that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. I think they were, so I don't remember a lot of them. Student, you're pretty self-involved in trying to get your own life together, who the heck you are. But I think there was a feeling like, you can kind of get that sense when you're in an environment and you sense somebody's charging around and they got some engine in them that really should take them to another level or something. Yeah. And I was, charging around, and and I had become kind of co-chairman of the department, and was really, pushing and to get, and making a lot of demands. And but at this of trying to get the it'd be a good school, good program, justify the parents paying the money and everything. And but at the same time, I did have an itch, which I had exercised being an actor, being in the touring Shakespeare company. So they knew that I really, loved busting out in those situations. So I think they said, you got to give it to her. So and I just remember two people saying that. But then they must have talked to somebody because they got it into the internet channel, and now
it's you know how the fucking internet is. It's all fake, but
did you have somebody that encouraged you to go do the business 5 years ago when you said?
So to be 100% honest with you, I got started at 15. I lost my way, and I'm a drug addict and alcoholic, and I got sober 4 years ago. And right. I think I lost 8 years of my life just fucking saying I was an actor, but I was just partying and doing drugs and trying to get laid. And, I had a lot of opportunities thrown my way because I had some talent. Alec Baldwin was my teacher. And
Alec Baldwin?
Oh. Yeah. And
NYU or where?
NYU. Yeah. And I fucked him up, man. And, I through a bunch of other rock bottoms, I finally was like, all right, enough is enough. I have immense shame and guilt that I lost so much time and that I didn't focus sooner. But who I am now and the depth that I feel like I have, I don't think I would be the actor I am without it. And
And as you know, coming through the program, that's such good teaching. And I'm familiar with the program quite a bit. And so I think the idea of how shame and guilt can be another kind of holding you back, kind of thing. So you had to overcome that to really embrace, the journey as it has been. Good for you, man.
If I had any success at 22, I probably would have fucking ruined it, doing blow and at the Chateau Marmont and done something stupid and ruined my career forever. And I would have just been a shitty actor because, your neurosis is insane on alcohol and drugs. You think you're such a better, cooler person, but you can be a real cunt. But sorry, man, I don't mean to take away from you.
No, I asked. I'm curious how it's been. And,
do you know Shea Wiggum at all?
No, I don't.
He's a very close friend of mine, and he's been very good and a mentor. And the work that you've done, and Shea, and Bill Camp, Chris Bauer, those guys. It's very much what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But
good. You got good influence with Bill Camp too, because he's. Him. We did Dark Waters last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Day at a time, man. But
an animal. I've seen him do. Did you see him on stage doing the? He did the Misanthrope at New York Theater Workshop. One of the great.
Oh man. Oh. Yeah. I have a really bad luck with getting things at New York Theater Workshop, but just every time I enter the lottery, I don't. But St. Anne's, I have much better luck. So I see everything at St. Anne's. So
that's good. Yeah.
Those are two of my favorite theaters in the world. But talk to me about you when you made this pivotal decision and you kind of left that one road of tenure and being the president of maybe a university. How did what was it that really, I guess, just gave you that audacity to be like, I'm going to do this other thing, because you had a safety net, and I have so much admiration and respect for that, because the leap is the hardest thing,
Yeah. Well, I was lucky in my birth order because I was 6 of 7. So my parents had given up on trying to influence me. It's such a factor, isn't it? What are you going to do? But they were basically by that time pretty just happy that I was happy. So that gave me permission. But I really, I didn't get really invested in the, you know, and when I, I was on the faculty, so I wasn't president of the university. Did you think
No,
of that?
I meant like that being the way it could have gone if you would.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez,
yeah.
thank you for leaving me in mind. But I did, you kind of have a certain comfort, even though it wasn't a lot of money and it was teaching. But I then went to New York, and then I had to just never mention to anybody that I taught college, because I had to carry boxes at liquor stores, and I had to do phone calls for New York Times
Yeah.
polling at night, fit all these odd survival jobs in. And it just complicated the message to say you came from another.
Yeah, because they're like, this is beneath you. I've dealt with the same thing myself. Why would you, you know what I mean? It's like, I got to survive and I need hours to be able to audition. So
Yeah.
when you came here, I imagine that was pretty much more so the real New York at that time. Could you find a place that wasn't $5,000 for a studio?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was really, possible. It took some work, but it was possible to find the lowest end accommodation. And I wasn't hugely invested in having a nice place or something.
Yeah.
And there were other actors who were, and I saw, that especially the bartenders, which I used to envy the bartenders. I thought they're making a lot of money.
I know.
And they're working at night, and so they can do auditions and do class work, and then they can do that, and they can get nights off even. But then I saw them go, they go, maybe I want that nice little West Village studio,
Yeah.
and they, up their nut a little bit, so they have to cover that nut, and then they work more hours. And I could just see, better to stay close to the ground and bump the cockroaches out so that you could get a good purchase that you wouldn't drain you, and then allows you to be free.
Yeah.
And those years were great years for me. Taking classes, working hard, and putting up scenes, and watching people work. EST was a big place for me during that. I used to go there to see good actors, and of course the public and things like that. And so I get to watch some really good actors that do their work on stage, and kind of thing I hadn't really seen before live. And it was a great time. That it's like Genesis.
Yeah.
Something is being birthed. And then, through the years, you have a foundation, I think that you are working from. So, it's you know how to think about character in a way that gives you great depth and contact with the material. And I think if you haven't spent that kind of hungry times, then you don't learn what it is to contact material in that way. It starts with text, and
Totally.
you have to really, it's two-dimensional. It's like, trying to build a building from a drawing. You got to be able to convert that 2 dimensions into something, and you got to look at it a long time. You got to know what it is that text is gonna, what sparks you into the kind of passion and kind of commitment that you couldn't believe came off a piece of paper, but does.
So beautifully put. Wow. So were you mainly concerning yourself with theater when you got here, just trying to get on Broadway, or even, a New York theater workshop equivalent?
Well, Ryan, I had a little bit of the same little virus that you had, because I really like the idea of getting paid to act and being in something in New York, whatever it was that you get a little money from, which I spent a couple of years without being able to do that, and then going to the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
That beer tastes so good.
And that stool is so comfortable. I know.
Yeah. Oh my God! It feels like we're living now.
Oh God.
I'm a paid actor. I can afford some drinks afterwards. We're gonna have one night out. This is so exciting, and the camaraderie, and in New York, there's a lot of camaraderie. And that was all pretty, but that I wasn't thinking about movies or TV or anything, though I did do a Cagney and Lacey. I got a part on Cagney and Lacey that was a doctor playing a doctor.
A guest
And
star or
guest star, yeah.
okay, cool.
And I had started to get some notice in some reviews and things that productions, and that kind of came along with, you could meet these casting directors that are looking for actors, and it covered some bills, and then, but I also got to meet some great actors in that. But I was offered to do a play in LA, and that's what made me go to LA.
At the Geffen or one of
the? It was at the Los Angeles Theater Center, which is 5-theater complex that had just opened up in '85, and this was one of the first productions in one of the theaters. And it was a very exciting. It was kind of like the Public, but for Los Angeles. And
is it still around?
No, it's kind of in a new form now, but it really had a great dream and a good run for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And I did, in the early first 2 years, I did 4 productions there. So I was using it as I was able to be kind of a part of a company.
Yeah.
And but then I was also auditioning, and the agents want you to also, you gotta
make money.
Yep, get money.
Yeah.
And but I was auditioning for something, and then it was a kind of a serial killer, and then but it was kind of funny and a comedy, and then I realized the guys were laughing, the directors, and they asked me to come back and read for another part, and I read for that, and they were kind of laughing too, but I didn't think I was very, very funny.
Yeah.
It ended up, I got the part. It was Ruthless People, the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams, and I was growing my hair out from a play. I had bleached my hair blonde for a play, and it was growing out, had roots, and I think that roots thing, they just loved it. So I ended up getting cast in a pretty good movie. Ruthless People still holds up. Not the biggest part in it, but good part.
Yeah.
And, it was largely because of my hair.
Wow. You still have beautiful hair. I need to make sure I have that. I'm worried. I'm on the Propecia train already. But that's amazing, man.
But I really liked it out in LA, and I thought at that point I was going to go back to New York, and I got married around the time we were doing while we were shooting Spaceballs, and I got married in Spaceballs right after I got married in life.
Was that fun working with Mel and Rick and everyone?
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to be good in those movies, but you were amazing. To ground yourself in that kind of world, Ricky Gervais and those guys, but you were just so amazing in that film. And I know what a coup it is to develop and harness a character in that kind of stylized comedy. You know what I mean? It's a sink or swim thing.
I'm working with 2 very different styles. Mel had his style, which was really great and kind of comes out of vaudeville. And John Candy and Rick Moranis had their style.
Yeah.
It was out of Second City in Chicago, much more self-effacing kind of humor. It was a kind of a quieter, more thrown away kind of style. And then Mel's was really more on point. And it was, really, really great to be able to sit there between both sides with working at their fullest, strongest. And I learned a lot from Mel for sure about that, what it is to have a clean, sharp delivery. Even if Candy used to go, ba-dum-bum.
I love that, man.
They were nervous about, getting pulled into being, doing big stuff. But Mel, he's that genius of all that tradition of really knowing how to punch something and deliver a line. And God, it was really, really lucky. But I thought it was all going to go away. You know, I thought, oh, lucked out again, and it'll all go away. But it was ended up being just the beginning.
Yeah, that was the flame that ignited like the '90s for you, so to speak. Would you say, or that was the one that put you on the radar? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was definitely got somewhere. You know, I was out of the blue. You know, nobody had any idea who I was during Spaceballs when it first came out. And for a number of years, I was doing good parts, and it still wasn't like everybody knew anything about Bill Pullman. There's my dog.
It's all good. My dog's right there too. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Finally reacting to my being one of the greatest actors, I guess. It's a hard
trying to teach
here, Ryan. I work and 5 minutes afterward. Yeah.
I love it, brother, and because I know you have a long day, we could talk project by project for so long, but let's just touch on a couple of the '90s. Like, I don't know, Newsies, Casper, and Independence Day. Talk to me about that, because they're all so different.
Yeah,
I guess like two or more children, but like and you beautifully sang, King of New York.
Yeah. Yes, had a little bit of triple threat for a minute there.
Oh yeah, man. And working with like 12-year-old Christian Bale.
Yes. Really great to meet all those young actors at that time, being able to see them all really pulling off those great dance numbers and everything. And, that was a time before, now we see things like La La Land and everything, but there was a period in which movies that had music in them was kind of old, that was not considered. And the movie didn't really charge around when it came out, but it got, because of VHS coming into its own, people could rent it, and suddenly it had a following, and then now it began to climb into better awareness. But it was dismissible after it first came out. People, that was failure.
I heard it was
failed and everything.
It didn't catch on till much later, as some of these things do happen. But
but then Casper, they just had a 25th anniversary of it, and it's the same with While You Were Sleeping. It's 25 years, Ryan. Wow. So, but I was remembering Casper because I did a little thing with Brad Silberling, the director, where we were to tweet during the 25th anniversary airing of the movie, and Brad remembers everything. So that was a great, good little journey, reconnecting to that movie, which I was glad that also has kind of hung around as kind of a classic.
I think
story.
I kid you not, that was the first time I cried in a movie, because when you died and her reaction, I was so sad. Like, I had a hard time. I was still so young. I didn't really understand, that it was fake or whatever. But man, you were just so good in that. And then it just moved me so much. And then I was like, this guy is amazing. And when Independence Day came along, action movies, they're I guess some people like them for escapism, but they've never been my thing. But when I heard you were in it, I was like, I got to see this movie. And then, that was back when Hollywood was able to make good action movies. And you were just like, talk about a time where we live in a world with the madman in the White House, one of the best, if not the best, on-screen president in the history of cinema.
It's amazing to have that moment be so. It just really ignited, people's sense of pride at certain moments. And I can remember those moments from when I grew up. The things that I liked. We didn't have real action adventure movies. We had World War II movies, but those moments in which camaraderie, pulling together, all that stuff, really, it dug into that. And there was criticism at the time that Independence Day was a popcorn movie. So it meant a matinee movie, which is using those kind of tropes of trying to
degrade it.
but they were, you know, heartfelt. If you believe in those things and you really sell it like it's real, you know, I wasn't one for like having a wink in my eye while I was doing it. Like, I'm aware that this is, you know, bigger than life and that kind of thing. I remember a couple of people asked, saying, "Oh, you know, did you really buy all that stuff that's in that movie?" And I think, you know, for it to work as a real kind of fairy tale or something, it works like fairy. You got to invest in it 100%. And you know, I was reminded of that because recently there was this Trump, you know, tweet where he put his head on me.
I was so enraged about that. The audacity.
Well, it just, it's kind of like, and the way that, you know, you think, well, don't say anything, he'll come back and be angry and, you know, tell you that it was a joke, but it wasn't really even aired as a joke. You know, it was aired to kind of garner his base to support him pulling people together, which is, of course, the opposite of what he really is.
Delusional narcissism.
Doing, so it was interesting, and I see it now with the church, you know, him going in front of the church where he's co-opting and, you know, he's robbing something to try to do something that he can't do himself, which is to bring everyone's spirit together about something. So he goes in front of a church, or they put his head on me talking in that speech. But anyway, that's aside from the point I only get to do because Ryan, you opened it up about the politics of the time, but I think it was a really interesting to play a president at that point, and I think it started something because there weren't a lot of hero presidents or central characters that were presidents, unless it was a biopic.
Totally.
But at that point, but to have it in an action movie was outrageous, and then after that it became kind of more common, and a lot of action movies had presidents.
And talk to me about that speech. I mean, was that something you worked on? Because it's like it is my favorite speech in a movie ever. It is.
Oh, well, it was, you know, we didn't work on it. It was last minute. Dean wrote it. He thought Dean Devlin and, you know, Roland were doing it, and Dean had kind of put it together thinking this is going to be better. But we had to get it in there and had to get it up on the schedule to shoot it early because we were trying to convince Fox that Independence Day would be a good title for the movie.
Yeah.
And they were going for Doomsday, which was a little lowbrow.
Oh, yeah.
So we ended up, you know, rushing into it, but it was really, maybe that's what also made it feel real, you know, like we had stakes and we had some skin in the game. We really wanted to pull off the scene so we could keep the title.
Wow. And I imagine every July 4th for you must be really weird now if you walk out and see fireworks. Everyone's probably looking at you.
Getting pizza or something and watching the TV. And I mean, it's been, you know, I've been in some places. I was in a pizza shop on July 4th while they were playing Independence Day. And I was waiting for my pizza, looking up at myself, and I realized there's a couple people over to the side going, "Wait a minute."
Oh, man. That's amazing. Well, you know, I'll probably extract a clip for this on July 4th because I don't think we're going to have one. So, you know, kudos to your amazing performance on that, man. And then let's you know, move into the early 2000s, you know, I feel like that rose you to just, I mean, a superstar. At that point, what interested you as an artist? Because that's what you are, man. I mean, was it script?
Yeah, I did, you know, I really wasn't interested in any superstardom or anything. I was kind of following what projects would really capture me, and I directed a movie.
Virginia.
Yeah,
I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, so.
Oh my gosh, yeah, in the far west, you know. But a lot of those cowpunchers came out of the South and Virginia and other places, and but I did, you know, those kind of things, which were, and I had a production company, and you know, developed scripts and did some, and really was interested in getting back to the theater. I was able to be in a very important play, 2002, which was The Goat, Edward
Albee. Yeah. Oh, love that.
Great playwrights, and for me, you know, the chance to kind of work with him, and I worked on that, and then another thing was really an honor and a chance to do a controversial play that has since, you know, gone on to really be an important part of American theater history. And that was, so yeah, those are the kind of things that I was really, you know, and I did a series I've been thinking a lot about, which called Torchwood.
Yeah, I remember.
It was a sci-fi series with Russell T Davies, who wrote it and directed it, who is, you know, continued to do great stuff. But it was a spinoff from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But Torchwood was about, it's called Miracle Day, and it was about you know, this fact that at a certain point, no one died anymore.
Yeah.
And at first that felt like a good thing. And then you realize that all the resources are being drained because people weren't getting better. They just stayed at the same level, and they were being drained to try to, because they were keeping them alive. And they realized at a certain point that it couldn't sustain it. And it's haunting to be in these times now, where, you know, we're really, by shutting down the economy and trying to beat this COVID virus, you know, you realize that we took a good hit, and all our resources went into trying to fight it. And what will happen if we're going to get hit, right? But anyway, so yeah, I've been curious about it, but I get to do a lot of different things right now. We're in talks with PBS to develop. We've developed and a look at superbugs. I'm still, because of our medical families, Ryan, I've been kind of really interested in following through, but I've connected up with microbiologists out of the Milken Institute at George Washington University, Lance Price and Cindy Liu, and we are looking to develop a series that's about superbugs, pandemics, and what it means to the fabric of our society. Because I think all the tensions right now, they were spurred by very unfortunate death that was reflective of chronic problems in our society, but it's hitting in a way, I think, on top of this COVID environment. And, you know, I think it's a lot of tension, and things get drawn into this whole thing, and you can see that we're going to get through this, but then we're going to have to look at public health and really ask some tough questions and get everybody, all the stakeholders involved with looking forward to what we're going to do in the future, so we do better. You know? So to be like Taiwan, it had just a handful of deaths, and the schools kept open, and, you know, we just got to suck it up and learn and do the right thing. So
not politicize
everything. Those are the kind of projects that really keep me going.
You know, speaking of going, you know, I saw the space launch the other day, and then I you know, I was doing some research for you, and I heard you wrote a wonderful play called was it Unknown Six or
Expedition 6?
Expedition 6. Talk to me about that experience, about writing a play. How was that?
That was, you know, that was cool. I have always been interested in docudramas, you know, so based on non-dramatic material, the text was, but it was they used to call all the teams that were on the space station by expedition. So it started with Expedition 1. But Expedition 6 was the group of 3 astronauts who were on the space station when the Columbia blew up in 2003.
Wow.
And that space shuttle blew up coming back into Earth. Was 7 astronauts died. the next day, there was 600,000 people in the Middle East celebrating the loss of the Columbia space shuttle because they said it was a sign from Allah that God didn't favor the impending invasion into Iraq.
Oh my
And,
God.
you know, that time period was clear to me that that period before America was one thing before invading Iraq, and then would be another thing for the next 10 years at least.
Yeah.
That it wasn't going to be a simple military thing, that we didn't have a clue about the differences between the Shia and the Sunni. And,
Yeah.
you know, nobody was up on just like COVID, you know. And there were 3 astronauts on the space station, 2 astronauts and a cosmonaut. And they were essentially stranded because they grounded the space shuttle. So the story of them was true story, how they got back to Earth and almost lost their lives in the Soyuz reentry. And they were gone from sight and were tracked for 6 hours before they were found. All that was this kind of small little story, but it really was a big, big look at, you know, the bottleneck of history. Yeah. Like what we're in now. We're in a bottleneck of history now.
Oh, for sure. Was that a great time, you know, going back to your roots and finally writing something and having it come to life? Was that just
Yeah, we were really, it was great. It was a very adventurous, it was all low-flying trapeze, you know, this, not like circus with 2 points, but, you know, axial. And that was really made it brilliant to work on with good actors that were really strong in that, a lot of different ways. But we did it at Kennedy Center and then in Baltimore and then in San Francisco. And yeah, it was really, really good. So I have a lot of whittling projects.
Yeah.
I recommend it, Ryan. You know, you gotta keep the old noodle greased up.
I know, man. I'm trying, you know. I just want to audition for one of your projects.
Yeah. Get back and.
Well, talk to me about The Sinner, because I loved your work in that. I loved Harry Ambrose, and that character was so complicated, and I felt for him, and the rapport you and Matt Bomer had, or, you know, Jamie, like, what a great, you know, season, you know, because it's a great show, but every season's different, you know, and I really loved your work in that. And, you know, I feel like these are my words, not yours, but as American cinema started to die and, you know, the middle budget to lower budget American movies are evaporating and intellectual property, you know, and fucking, you know, toys remain as the dominant threshold in the movie marketplace, you know, television, I feel like, is now where the great writers are developing and the great actors are going. So talk to me about that process. How was that experience?
Well, you know, I came along 2 years, decades after you. So you were probably more aware of television than I was. And I actually had a little fear about committing to a series that would go from year to year. And because I thought how bad it would be to be obligated by contract to do something that I had stopped believing in. And I had heard a number of stories about that. But here we are, this Sinner is being the first series that I've done that's gone season to season. And what was my problem? Really, Pullman.
Yeah, you could have been in House of Cards, man.
Get with the program, man.
I get it, though. Yeah.
You know, it just was like, God, it's so interesting. I feel very fortunate. I know it's not, you know, it's not doing, you know, some reality or some kind of quasi-reality thing in some suburb where everybody's doing naughty things, you know. So it's not the lowest end, but it's great that we're at a really got a great team, a great premise that's thoughtful, that allows me to bring a lot of things into it that I see in life. It was modeled around my nature, you know, that all my interest in biophilia, all things biological. I have,
Oh, the tree thing was very much part of, all the what's the term for that? Well, botany and so forth. That was written for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it actually was an idea that Derek started with, and when he showed me the script, he said maybe the guy's got an interest in botany, and I thought, you've been reading my mail? I've done a lot with orchards. I'm in a documentary called The Fruit Hunters. I have a huge, interest with orchards. I still have.
And you got a place in Montana where I'm sure you grow stuff, right?
Well, LA is the best growing you can get.
True.
Mediterranean temperate climate is, you can grow more plant material from all around the world. In California, it's like, those other Mediterranean countries were temperate climate. So I have a lot of, 60 different fruit trees or so, and make a lot of things with it, and but there it was in the center, and then to recognize and have lines like looking around and talking, in the kind of non sequiturs in which he brings up suddenly, evidence of a tree in decline, and reflection that the ecology is out of balance, and that it's just like, that's great. Second season was about Ambrose going back to his hometown in Western New York State. That was all, really came from my, spent time with the writer's room in the first season, telling backstory for why Ambrose was so compartmentalized and had this, this kind of inability to access things, and, living with his right hand, not always admitting what the left hand is doing, which very human thing, and part of my life. And then the growing up with a mother that had suffered with psychiatric illness, and that all became part of the second season. So, this has been a great journey, a great thing, and we're all kind of hovering, waiting to see what's going to happen with coming out of COVID with it, and but we're hoping the season 4 will happen.
Oh, amazing! Well, USA, I feel like that show's been such a hit for them. They absolutely have to do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Ryan, part of my love of, two boys went to a college, Warren Wilson College in near Asheville, North Carolina. And they have been a great interest in ecology and everything. And we're going to, my wife and I have a noon Zoom meeting with them as they look at the nature of their attempts to kind of integrate more ecology into 4-year college curriculum, so that people who go to college don't have to major in it, but can interface with a lot of activities that connect them to nature.
Yeah.
So I've got to probably make a segue.
Yeah. Well, Bill Pullman, thank you for coming on, man. It's been a real honor, and it's just been so amazing watching you work over the years and getting a chance to talk to you. I hope we, get a chance to grab coffee or work together one day, man. Thank you for doing all you do, and I got nothing but so much love for you.
Well, you're in New York.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is, hope to be back there this fall shooting away. So
yeah,
we'll keep in touch and cross
Please
paths.
do. Also, before you leave, I love your son Lewis's work. If you know his agent, I'd love to have him on the show.
Same agent as mine. That beautiful, Ryan. He had job offers where he had to have test deals done, and my agent didn't want to do it. And she said, "Oh no, it's going to get this stuff backfires, Bill. I'm not going to." He got the part, and then they were like, "Oh, we want to represent him." And now, of course, they're glad, and he's glad. We have good representation.
And getting you to work together, the Ballad of Lefty Brown, it was so fun. watch that. Yeah.
But, and Battle of the Sexes, we were in the same movie.
Yeah. Well, dude.
But he's gone on, and he's got the Top Gun 2 thing coming out.
Yeah.
And he's working hard.
Connect us, man. I'd love to have him on the show. I'm a big fan. And Bill, I got so much love for you. I'll let you get to your next meeting, man. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on and all that you do and inspiring all of us around the world, man. You're truly a master. And
well, thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a good treat for me. You get to see my little lair. I get to see your lair. The two pillars gray behind you. Standing
I got my curtains,
Yeah, but it looks like we're in some kind of maybe Roman temple, and then you have the bed in front, which is the Caligula orgy level going on. It's really beautiful. And then you've got a striped shirt, like I'm in a prison of sorts. So it's really
it feels like that at this point.
Right.
Bill Pullman, man.
All right. Well, take care.
Stay in touch. All right. I'll give in.
All right.
All right. Love you, brother.
All right.
All right.
Best to you, Ryan. Right. Bye-bye.